In the Skylanders series, there are 10 elements that a Skylander can have. In this video, we're going to be ranking these 10 elements based on 3 different factors. The Skylanders in the element themselves, the abilities of the elements, like what kind of attacks can you get from this element, and then finally the diversity of the Skylanders in the element. So are all the Skylanders in one element, do they all do the same thing, or do they all have their own diverse and fun movesets? That's what we're going to be looking at today. The dark element is in the number 10 spot for a few different reasons. First of all, because there are so few Skylanders in this element, they didn't really have a very big chance, because if there's a few bad Skylanders, then that kind of ruins the whole element. And that's mostly what happens here. First of all, the Skylanders in this element are not very good. Some of them are okay. Some of them, it depends on opinion. I feel like the only consistently good Skylander that everyone likes in this element is Starcast. But in my opinion, the other Skylanders in this element are just not very good compared to the Skylanders in other elements. Also, the element itself kind of is not as good as the other ones, because it doesn't really have a definitive sort of attack or a definitive sort of thing. It's just darkness. What exactly is darkness? It's not evil, because the Skylanders aren't evil. So it's not really clear what's going on with the darkness, with the dark element. So that's why I think this one deserves to be in the number 10 spot. The magic element is not a bad element, because a lot of the Skylanders have really complex and fun movesets, and also there's a lot of diversity in the element. But my problem with this element is that a lot of the Skylanders just don't feel like they belong to any particular element. So some of the Skylanders don't really feel like magical Skylanders that belong in this element. So I feel like it's kind of just like an extra element that they throw any Skylanders that don't really belong, which is why I don't think it's a bad element, but it just can't really be too high up on the list. The light element isn't too high on this list, because similar to the dark element, there weren't many Skylanders made for this element, and it kind of just feels like a forced element that was used to increase sales. However, it still does feel pretty cool when using the power of light to like destroy your enemies. And also the Skylanders in this element, I feel like, are all pretty solid. Even Astro Blast, so I feel like a lot of people don't like. I personally think that if you put him on the right path, he's pretty good. So yeah, and all around, like, this is a pretty solid element. However, it's not the best, because it's like for reasons similar to the dark element. The life element is not a bad element. I feel like there's some good diversity. I just feel like when it comes to the strength of the Skylanders, and also the playstyle of the Skylanders, just feels kind of boring, because a lot of the unique attacks just have to do with plants. So I think it's not really that fun to use, but it's definitely not a bad element. And the life element, you know, it means all of life. So there's all kinds of different animals and plants that act as the Skylanders. So I feel like that's pretty cool, but at the same time, it's just a little boring to play. I feel like the earth element as an element is a pretty strong element, where it feels really powerful when you're using attacks coming straight from the earth, like when you're using crystal attacks or you're summoning rocks from the earth. It feels like you're using a pretty powerful element. So I feel like the element in itself is good, but the way the movesets of the Skylanders work, which in my opinion is not very good, because a lot of the time for most Skylanders, in my opinion, of the earth element, their moves take a long time to use. They're clunky. They don't really go together very well compared to other elements with movesets that kind of flow together better than the earth element. So I just feel like in general, most Skylanders of the earth element just don't have that flow in combat as a lot of Skylanders from other elements. Now, at first I was going to put the air element a lot lower on the list, but when I looked at each individual Skylander and how diverse and how powerful and fun a lot of them are, I just really couldn't put it too low, because there's a lot of really good Skylanders in this element, and they all kind of do their own thing. Some use lightning, some use air, some just use a lot of different cool attacks. So they all feel pretty powerful and fast-paced, and all their attacks kind of flow together. So I feel like in general, it's a pretty good element. Now, I feel like they did a really good job with the Undead element, because it feels really diverse, and it also has like all around that spooky, ghostly theme where every Skylander, like if you look at it, you say, yeah, that's an undead Skylander. So they all have the same theme, but they're all really diverse in their play styles and movesets and designs. So just all around, it's a pretty solid element. And also it feels pretty powerful to use, and especially when you're using like the power of the undead, like you're summoning kind of skulls and ghosts. So it feels pretty powerful, and the Skylanders are diverse and pretty cool. So it's a pretty solid element. The water element is a really diverse and fun element. So there's like ice attacks and water attacks. The Skylanders are all around pretty solid. There's like sea creatures and kind of humanoid characters, and some can summon sea creatures. So it uses all kinds of diverse attacks. So all around, it's a pretty good element. The fire element is going to be in second place because it's just such a cool element. I mean, obviously, if the Skylanders are using fire to just burn enemies and smash enemies and just destroy them, it's obviously going to be really cool. And they executed it super well. All the Skylanders have amazing designs, complex move sets. They're just so fun to use. So obviously this element has to be pretty high up there, but it's not number one. Now, in my opinion, the best element is a tech element. Similar to how all undead Skylanders share the theme of using spooky powers and using ghosts and skeletons, all tech Skylanders share the theme of using advanced technology. Even though they're all so vastly different from each other, they all share the same theme. So that's why you can always tell that a Skylander is of the tech element, even though they're all so diverse and so unique. There's some robots, but even the robots are unique. And then there are some creatures that use technology to do all kinds of different stuff. Like there's a T-Rex with a helicopter. There's a literal bomb that shoots rockets. Like just, they're all really diverse. And also the Skylanders themselves are really powerful and fun to use. They'll have really fun to use and sometimes complex movesets. So I think they just did a really good job with this all. So that's going to be all for the video. If you have your own unique opinions, please make sure to leave them in the comments. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe, and have a great day.